and not shut them down, but let's legitimize their operation. Let's let them continue doing what they're doing, and let's let them bring more locals into a place that can be enjoyed, and let's let them bring more tourists to town so commercial spaces can be filled. Anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I hope you make the right decision.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the speaker cards that I have before us, and I was going to call for additional speaker names.
Sorry about that. I'm Barbara Reed. I've lived in Mendocino for a long time, and you know the history, but I'm here to support them. And they do a fantastic job. McCallum House was, we're talking about something else, but McCallum House was falling down. And when they came, they restored it. Everything they touch in town has turned better. Please grant them these 4 rooms. I mean, it's been 16 years, and we're talking about 4 rooms in a building. They don't have to build anything. They've got water, they've got parking, they have all the environmental things. There were 30 people at that meeting, according to the newspaper, that attended, that apparently didn't like the figures that the county had done. But I just want to stress that I think that Jed handed in 200 letters from people in Mendocino and Fort Bragg, mostly Mendocino, that support this project. And I didn't know if that was stressed enough, but there's, I think, close to 200 letters. So, thank you.
Thank you. One last speaker card, Tom Kravis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Kravis, 45080 Main Street. Jared Carter is referred to the orderly growth. He said a project should be consistent with the policies and objectives, but be subject to orderly growth. And I think that based on what other speakers have said and what staff have said, having units that are illegal and then approving them is hardly an order that you want others to follow. There's no substantial evidence that there's a need for more visitor servicing facilities, and in fact there is substantial evidence on the contrary. Occupancy rates, according to the Randall Marketing Plan, are dropping. Mr. Carter required me, I paid him to require me a few years ago, to prepare an EIR over almost 19 years ago that was certified by the county that showed the highway capacity of Highway 1 would not justify any more visitor serving facilities in Mendocino. Where is a new certified EIR by the county before us today that demonstrates that somehow overnight that the capacity of Highway 1 has increased to support additional units? What liability does the county invite when it demands one landowner to complete an EIR that concludes and there concludes that there can be no additional VSFs, and another applicant openly markets rooms that have not been licensed and rewards this by approving these additional units? This is hardly orderly growth. The lack of demonstration of a compliant ADA accessibility and pathways into town also invites another potential lawsuit that could be generated by those who know the Watson Associates ADA study and who are aware that the county has an obligation to comply. Failure to do so is another example of unfair business practices to those of us who have adhered to these costly and rigorous ADA requirements. Our economy is in recession. The occupancy rates are falling, as is the average daily rate. Empty beds that have accumulated in 2008 throughout the county and in the town of Mendocino are equivalent of adding thousands of additional room nights and dozens of new visitor serving facilities. A number of inns, including the Mendocino Hotel and Hill House, have cut staff because of falling occupancy. However, even the applicant advertised this week that their rates have been cut up to 50%, presumably to increase occupancy. In response, we and others are slashing our room rates. While demand and room rates plummet, you're being asked today to add more capacity. As we all reduce rates to compete with each other, the lowered room rates has untoward effects. Margins, if any, are insufficient to cover mortgage and other costs of doing business. This is quite reminiscent of the subprime frenzy. Witness the Heritage House, which filed for bankruptcy last week. Their employees let go, no longer available to provide services or to spend wages in the county. This decreased occupancy will also result in reduced room taxes and a reduction in bid funds, which will likely reduce the ability to promote further tourism in the county. The downward spiral of tourism revenue to inn and business owners and the county itself will likely result in fewer funds for county to hire compliance staff to enforce the very ordinances that were designed to protect those who comply with the rules. Less enforcement will encourage illegal VSFs and further increase room capacity and lower occupancy. As we mentioned in the last meeting, the California Lodging Association and California Bed and Breakfast Inns Association has encouraged its members in Mendocino to file a suit on the basis of unfair business practices. In conclusion, the preservation of the historic character of the town is dependent in part on successful, thriving businesses, which locals as well as visitors may experience. The approval of these additional rooms hurts compliant business owners and breaks the trust that residents and innkeepers have in their elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kravis. For the record, you went 4.5 minutes there. Just comment. Any additional speakers out in the audience? Okay, I'll bring this back. And questions of the board to the staff and/or public comment? Hearing and seeing none. Okay. Supervisor
Mr. Chair,
Smith.
I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas of questions and concerns. Just want to let you know that might take a little bit of time. So we can go to any of the applicant or staff at this time?
Well, now is the time for questions of
Okay.
the board.
Okay.
So following the procedures, now is the time.
Okay. I'd like to go to Mr. Shepherd, because it mainly comes from your presentation. If you could come forward, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Ayers. Sorry, misspoke. So to begin with, we have a letter from Mr. Carter, written on behalf of you and Mr. Shepherd. It states here in paragraph 2, the 4 additional rooms that McCallum House seeks to rent already exist. They are already served with all the necessary utilities and will require no further work to prepare them to serve visitors should this application be approved. What is the current status of the rental of those rooms? Are those rooms currently being rented, or will they be rented? Are they apartments? Are they overnight accommodations? What are they, and what is the status?
They're overnight accommodations that are ready to be rented.
So are they currently being rented, or have they been rented in the past?
In the past, they have.
They have been rented?
Yeah.